Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in to another one of my videos. Hola e bem-vindo to all of my Brazilian watchers. Quickly, my outfit of the day, considering that I'm quite short, so I did wear this dress with the Mark & Spencer gold wedge this time around. My Portuguese is not great. Very quickly, this is my latest purchase. I will definitely be posting a reel and you can check out my Instagram to see me wear it out. But this was $3.25 Trinidad and Tobago dollars. So if you do the conversions, that's probably about 50 US dollars. I spent probably 4 months across 3 cities in Brazil. That would have been Sao Paulo, Rio De Janiero, and Belo Horizonte, probably when I was 13, 14 years old. And I really had the time of my life, if it was at all possible at 13, 14 years old. So I definitely want to speak about some of the incredible experiences that I had in Brazil. I'm a foodie, so I want to start with the different sorts of Brazilian food that I tried and sort of the impact that it had on me, the things that I liked and the things that I didn't like. I would like to point out that Brazil, like most countries of its size, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually the biggest country in Latin America. It has its regionalities, so I'm speaking based on what I experienced in those 3 particular cities. I remember that none of the juice that I bought went out, especially not at quick stops. I'm not sure how you call those in Brazil, but basically I did quite a few bus tours across the country, and I remember at every single sort of bus quick stop, none of the juice was actually pre-sweetened, as in they would give you your drink but you would have to add your sugar separately. I'm not sure if it's still like that, but I would like to know. I thought I found that that was quite useful for people who, example, have diabetes, so that they don't find themselves having drinks that are pre-sweetened and not good for them. I also noticed that when you order between a small, a medium, and a large in Brazil, it could have just been where I was eating. I remember this was especially true at the airports. A small would be tiny by American standards, like almost an espresso glass worth of drink. A normal would be medium, and a large would be enormous. That's something that shocked me, and it's something that I had to be aware of at each city and every time I went out to eat. Similarly, I thought that weighing plates, which was something that I experienced across all 3 cities, was much better than contending with North American portions. As a Canadian and somebody who has been to the United States, I can tell you that after being in the UK for a while, the portions in North America are just too big for no reason. So I really enjoyed getting the value for my money by weighing out plates rather than going with these pre-selected portions. You know, maybe you do want to have like rice, chicken, but you don't really want an enormous portion. And pretty much everywhere else on earth that I've been, you have pre-selected portions, you have pre-selected box sizes and combo meals and all of these things, and I much preferred the Brazilian system. The food cannot be described in Brazil. It is something that you can only experience when you are there. It's honestly where I started eating black beans, I developed a very profound appreciation for black beans when I was in Brazil. And pounded meat, as in you would literally go into a restaurant and the counter, it would be almost like a bar, right? With sort of two sides of a bar, and in the middle, like an island, you would have your kitchen. I would imagine similar to the hibachi system. And you would see people pounding out a chicken breast until it was flat, seasoning it up and grilling it, and giving it to you on a couple plates with white rice and sort of a separate bowl of black beans. There seems to be this global sort of paying by plate system in Brazil. I went to a buffet where it was almost like guys were coming around with swords that had meat on them, kind of like a kebab, and they would basically put enough, like, until you tell them to stop, they would just keep offloading the meat onto your plates. And I think the weighing system allows buffets to go a lot further in Brazil than they would elsewhere. I can readily admit that I have never gotten over such simplistic yet tasty cuisine. It was not tasty because of sugar, fat, oil that we're accustomed to in North America and to a certain extent the UK, but simply because it was very well seasoned, very fresh, very well prepared. And I'm not sure if it was just the tourist type places that I went, but I do know that seeing the preparation of the meat, as in even pounding out the chicken and the beef, was just very, very refreshing to see. When we were in Minas, or rather Belo Horizonte, but I was fortunate enough to stay in the Minas hotel, which at the time was a 5-star hotel. I had my first ever mocktail, and what it basically was locally grown cashews and cranberry juice of some sort, but it was thickened. And basically the cranberry was at the bottom, and it was the lovely purple sort of color that cranberry is, and at the top you had cashew, and you had to mix it to get the proper cocktail experience. I didn't know that, and I put my straw in and I drank all of the cranberry sauce out of the base of the drink, and I was then forced to drink the cashew at the top, which may not have been bad if it was properly mixed, but it was a very unique experience and my first ever mocktail. There's just something special about fresh ingredients, meaning freshly sort of prepared cashew and all these things, and as I said, you can't compete with Brazilian cuisine once you have actually tasted it in Brazil. Of course, one of the first things that strikes you is the people of Brazil. They are incredibly, incredibly friendly. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. It could be because I was a tourist, but even the people on the streets, meaning persons who weren't selling me things, were very, very friendly, very happy to direct, very happy to translate, and it was just, you don't find that sort of spirit everywhere that you go in the world. I should also speak about the siesta culture. I made the mistake of trying to go out shopping in Rio at probably 2 p.m. on a Saturday, and found absolutely everywhere was closed. So it is a very real thing as more and more Western countries move towards a 4-day work week. I'm sure there's something we can learn from the Brazilians. Similarly, the community life is incredibly rich in Brazil, and they're very, very family and community oriented, throughout society, throughout the classes, in a way that you don't really find, especially in the Western world anymore. As I said, even as an outsider, I felt very much included in people's communities and almost their families, just by meeting people my own age and sort of moving around with them. And it was something that I have really, really not experienced, even in Canada, where Canadians are known for being very friendly. It was nothing like the Brazilian warmth that you do actually experience. It is no exaggeration when they say that Brazil is sort of a rainbow nation. I saw people from all racial backgrounds or phenotypes sort of scattered throughout different cities. In the south, there's a bit more of a European looking mix. In Rio, it was very, very diverse. We saw dark-skinned Brazilians, quite a few people like myself, to be honest, and a lot of more European looking ones. But what I didn't feel, could have just been because I was a tourist, was actually a racial divide. I saw people of different complexions throughout all different spheres of Brazilian society, and I thought that was incredible to see. I can't help but point out that I really blended in when I was over there, and it was a first, even living in places like the Caribbean, where you have a bit more people of African descent, to sort of see that mixture that was similar to mine just throughout the country was incredible, and I really enjoyed it. I really felt visible in a way that I typically do. In addition to being very family oriented, Brazilians are very much about fitness, about, well, healthy eating, but I would see middle-aged 40-year-old men on Copacabana beach playing a combination of volleyball and football, where the point is just to get the ball over the net. If you kick it with your foot, that's okay. If you volley the actual ball, that's part of the rules. But there was this very health conscious sort of experience in August, when the rest of the world is typically experiencing summer. That is their winter in Brazil in some places. I remember in Rio and in Sao Paulo, which I believe is the south, it wasn't Canadian cold. It wasn't -30, but it was sort of around 0 and 5 degrees for a lot of time that we were there. That did not stop Brazilians coming out in their numbers in the streets, kicking footballs, being on the beach and playing volleyball or whatever you would call that. First time seeing an array of girls in midriffs at 0 degrees. Not even Canadians are so daring for the most part. And I cannot speak about Brazil without speaking about their fashion. It truly was where I developed a love of high-top boots. I speak all the time about wearing fall, sort of black equestrian looking boots in Canada. But in Brazil, they take fashion to a whole other level. I first acquired my love of skinny jeans and high-top boots in Brazil. And it was just the creativity with how they created these boots. Like, it was sort of like Y2K, but in a very, very creative way. Like, the boot itself would be denim, and then the heel or the platform would be wooden, but the wood would be carved in such a way that it looked almost like a wrought iron design, just out of wood, but in a in the heel of a boot, and you're now seeing a lot of designers trying to do that. I saw that on Fashion Over the other day. So to me, Brazil has always been sort of a leader in its own way in fashion. I saw a whole bunch of skinny jeans before skinny jeans were ever a thing in North America and in Europe. Like, they really were a thing in Brazil. And you know, it's not an exaggeration what they say about Brazilian women. They're very, very curvy and beautiful. Regardless of what their racial composition is, everybody's curvy, everybody's beautiful. Just seeing, you know, that sort of combination of the skinny jeans and the boots on a similar body type to mine was very empowering at 13, 14 years old. Where for me, it may have been more the Paris Hilton and, you know, the slim, thick physique compared to actually physiques that are more like mine, which, you know, are properly full, you know, kind of like how Kim Kardashian looked for a good period of time. But we do know that women's bodies are not trends. I'm just saying that it shaped my understanding of self as a 13, 14-year-old girl. Unfortunately, at that age, I was not at all interested in the more popular tourist attractions like Jesus Christ the Redeemer. My parents went and they said that sometimes it is so overcast or so rainy that you go up onto the platform and you're just seeing the base, and then as the sun sort of comes out, you see the full statue, which apparently is very, very humbling and breathtaking and almost a spiritual experience that, you know, looking back, I really missed it. I was asked if I wanted to go, and like most 13, 14-year-olds, you know, I just didn't have an appreciation for where I was at that time. I remember the streets of sort of leading up to Copacabana not really being, I don't want to say cobbled, but sort of decorated with a mosaic, a black and white mosaic of black and white tiles, like very small tiles. And I remember, you know, you would go out and sort of get lost, but as soon as you start finding, you know, those black and white tiles again, you know that you are near to your house. Because I lived close to Copacabana in an apartment when I was in Brazil. So, you know, as soon as you see that mosaic on the pavement, you know that you're no longer lost. But the people, the food, and the fashion aside, it is one of the most physically beautiful places I have ever seen in my life. As I started speaking about traveling city to city by bus, and you would just sort of wind along the mountains, and there would be these huge, I don't want to say, like, a couple of them were dams, but a couple of them were just lakes, a couple were rivers, but they were very huge, and I remember them being this beautiful deep blue sort of color that you typically only find in the middle of the ocean. So that's something that I will never forget. And I also remember Copacabana Beach cannot be described by somebody who hasn't been there. It was really, really clean, for one, but you have to be there to understand how breathtaking it really is. Brazil in general is so breathtaking. It's really a pity that I was not more interested when I was there, because there's so many scenes that will only ever remain in my memory. And I remember sort of seeing like these trains, surface trains of just coal and gas loam or some sort of soil running alongside the roads that we would take to sort of move in between the cities. And You know, it was incredible to see what a resource rich, physically blessed place Brazil actually was. So that'll be it for this video. If you are a Brazilian viewer, and there seem to be quite a few of you, please do let me know that you saw this in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one.